Hi, I'm Sam Hawley, coming to you from Gadigal Land. This is ABC News Daily. The Matildas will take on England tonight in a World Cup semi-final. But if they win and then go on to take out the entire tournament, do we really all deserve a day off? The Prime Minister's been dropping hints he might declare a public holiday so we can all celebrate a victory together. Today, ABC Grandstand's Quinton Hull on when politics and sport mix and why we've all jumped on the Matildas bandwagon. Quinton, it's not too often that we have these moments when, as a nation, we get all consumed by a sporting event. I bet you wish you were commentating on Saturday night.
Would have been magnificent, yeah. I was across town at the Gabba, like a lot of others at different sporting events, and wherever we were, we made sure we found a place near a radio or near a screen to keep up with the shootout. It was amazing drama.
The country was collectively on a knife's edge, but with one kick, the boot of Courtney Vine broke the silence of an estimated 6.2 million people.
Oh my gosh, your colleague Ned Hall, he was commentating for the ABC. I wonder how he actually contained himself.
She scored! She peels away! Australia have won! What an outpouring of emotion inside the stadium there in Brisbane.
You get in the moment and you do the job. It's a bit like the players there. I've had that experience, luckily, for other big moments in sport. And the main thing is you've got to ride the emotion, but you've got to do your job and then look back and think, oh, gee, I hope I delivered the necessary theatre and drama. And Ned did an outstanding job, as he has done all tournament.
Australia have made it into the semi-finals of the World Cup in incredible circumstances, in the highest drama imaginable.
Yes, it felt like the whole nation was yelling and screaming at the TV. It was so incredible. It's not that often, is it, Quinton, that we have sporting moments like this, that a whole nation is sort of transfixed by it. It does happen, of course. I mean, Cathy Freeman winning gold back in 2000, that springs to mind.
Cathy Freeman's victory was everyone's, crossing generations, crossing race.
I got really happy and I feel like just screaming out, Cathy, Cathy, Cathy.
And there have been a few other times, of course.
Look, I think the reason why this team has got Australia engaged is because there is a sense of something new about the achievement. And it's not just about getting to the World Cup semi-finals for the first time. It's all tied up with the continued growth of women's sport in Australia. It's not uncommon for a country to stop for a big moment in a world football tournament. It's just quite uncommon for it to happen in our country because it really hasn't happened before.
Yes, exactly. All right, so Quinton, best we now turn to this issue of whether we all deserve a day off if the Matildas win the tournament. 40 years on, this is, of course, evoking memories of Bob Hawke after Australia won the America's Cup, although that was an unofficial leave day.
I tell you what, any boss who sacks anyone for not turning up today is a bum. You have to work a bit harder the next day to make up. It's a day for all Australians, isn't it? It's a day that brings us all together. Marvellous.
Well, why would we need the day off?
No.
Why would we? If we need the day off, make the call before we win, or is it a day off just if we win? Is it only about getting on the coattails of a winner? Oh, the politicians, I wish they would leave sport alone sometimes in this context. It's playing politics in a horrible way, which can really only blow up in their face when you get key stakeholders, which have already started to come out of the woodwork, pointing at government policy which doesn't fund sport the way it used to in this country. It doesn't have proper women's facilities at community sporting grounds. So why bang the drum for a popularity contest to ride the wave of success?
Right.
It opens the door in my mind. I mean, if you want to spend a day off celebrating, how about spending a day in cabinet going through all these ideas and problems to ensure that, you know, the coattails that you're riding on of this successful team, that may be reproduced by policy and actually do something positive for the future of what this team's doing, rather than just trying to garner popularity.
This is something much more than just a sporting event.
The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, he seems pretty keen to push ahead with this idea of a public holiday. He wants the state and territory leaders to back it in, and it is their decision ultimately.
The state and territory leaders should consider it, and I know that it's received a pretty warm reception in most quarters, I've got to say.
The New South Wales Premier, Chris Minns, he's on board. He thinks it's a pretty good idea. He wants a civic celebration and a day off.
We are talking to the FFA about when the best date would be. Can't be the next day, but it would be within a very short window.
I know your concerns, but many Australians wouldn't complain about this, would they?
What Australian complains about giving a day off?
Yes.
I mean, there's a couple of points here, and again, I don't. This is politics. This isn't sport. This is about Anthony Albanese showing a flex of the power that he's got through the majority of the states who are on the same side of government as him, and then it's again the wonderful buck pass. It's like, well, I didn't decide it. The states did that. So why are we engaging in this game? Has it really got something to do with celebrating an achievement from a group of wonderful young Australians? Really, let's look into this. Is this about celebrating an achievement, or are the politicians just trying to one-up each other here?
Yeah, well, the federal opposition's David Littleproud, he thinks businesses would really suffer.
I don't want to be Captain Killjoy on this, but look, I think business has a point here. It's easy to call for a national holiday when someone else is paying for it.
Of course. Well, that's the game of politics, isn't it? If you float a wonderfully popular idea, then someone starts to talk sense. Well, you can be booed at and said, "Oh, aren't you a party pooper?"
Yeah, all right. So has it ever actually happened before, Quinton, that we've had a public holiday just to celebrate that we have won?
I can't remember it. No. Now, so we have the days off in Melbourne pre-AFL Grand Final and to celebrate Melbourne Cup Day.
Yes.
So big race days to allow people to have time off work to go and socialise and to be a part of the community event that racing has so often been in this country. We've had that before. And the footy one in Melbourne is relatively new. But, you know, I haven't seen such an occurrence before. I don't know why we're talking about it now.
Yeah, all right. I guess the America's Cup was as close as we got. That was that.
And Bob Hawke at least said his famous line without, you know, promising to follow through. I mean, that was a larrikin leader saying what he felt.
Yes.
There's a way to celebrate this, and the way to celebrate is to invest in the future generations rather than just giving everyone the day off.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. The success, Quinton, of the Matildas, it really feels like it's turning into quite a significant cultural moment. Do you feel that?
Well, the dynamic of it is based in a couple of areas. One, as I mentioned before, Australia doesn't have a highly successful history in the world game. We have been successful in basically every other sport that the world sees as big, be it Summer Olympics, Winter Olympics, you know, winning cricket World Cups, and we've got to remember how many billions of people are involved in cricket. Our netballers have done it, our hockey teams have done it, our rugby union teams have done it. Any team that's been involved in sport on a global scale in Australia has had some type of global success that they can look back at. It's never happened in football. So, one, the biggest sport in the world has never seen Australia achieve so well as this Matildas team has. Two, there are the wonderful stories of the young girls that have grown up and now have a pathway to be professional sports people. This is, of course, one of the great new things of the modern generation, the increasing professionalism of women's sport. And the fact that anything that happens in your own backyard seems bigger. We have had magnificent Olympic moments, but nothing beats Cathy in Sydney in the year 2000 because it was in Sydney and we had the lead up to it. The dream was fulfilled in front of our eyes, and that's a part of what a home sporting event can do. It comes from a background of a group of athletes like the Matildas, or in the case of Cathy, where it has a very strong social commentary as the path of their individualism and their ability to get to that stage. Of course, it was Cathy and her link to Indigenous Australia, and the Matildas have the link to the growing professionalism of the world of women's sports. So there's a couple of key areas while we're comparing the two here.
Yeah, and what does this surge in popularity say about the untapped potential of this sport in this country? Dare I say, could it become more popular than the other codes? Could it be more popular than the AFL or the NRL? It seems to be right now.
Well, and it's one of the reasons that we see the AFL and the NRL in particular fight so fiercely for their turf because they are ostensibly domestic sports. I mean, rugby league has a small international footprint. AFL has no international footprint really to speak of, which is why they fight so hard domestically and why they've introduced the women's competitions, because they want first choice athletes playing their game. You know, it is a battle out there for sports to get top line talent in what is a sports loving country, which on a world stage that doesn't have a very big population. So, and football's always had this issue. You know, you look at the domestic product, it's not followed as well as the international team is. I think that's just a lot of soccer in this country. So there's all these issues to look at too.
Yeah, well, we're certainly deeply connecting with football right now. Why don't you give me your prediction for tonight? And please do not tell me it will end in a penalty shootout. It was excruciating.
Are you asking me as an Australian sports lover or as a learned mind who could know the pitfalls of all the ins and outs of football?
All I want you to do is tell me they're going to win.
Okay. So, look, this match being played in Australia is massive. They beat England the last time they played them. That was in England. But this is an English team which has recently won the European Championships. I think that it's a good draw for Australia, but a bad draw in that England will feel, I don't think they'll feel uncomfortable in the scenario as well. But look, it's Cathy's field of dreams.
Yes.
Let's bring the link in there. Perhaps it's the Matildas' field of dreams as well. Wouldn't that be a nice segue? Now that they're back in Sydney, and if they win on Wednesday, then they play in Sydney again on Sunday. So maybe, Sam's field of dreams 23 years after Cathy's field of dreams.
Brilliant. Let's hope so. Quinton Hull, thank you so much.
No worries.
Quinton Hull is a sports broadcaster and commentator with Grandstand. The World Cup final will be held on Sunday at 8 p.m, with or without the Matildas in it. This episode was produced by Veronica App, Nell Whitehead, Laura Corrigan and Sam Dunn, who also did the mix. Our supervising producer is David Cody. I'm Sam Hawley. To get in touch with the team, please email us on ABC News Daily at abc.net.au. Thanks for listening.
Subscribe to listen to more free podcasts or download the ABC Listen app and stream ad-free.